Carandbike Dialogues. I am Siddharth Vinayak Partner. On this show, every week, we take an in depth plunge into the automobile sector and analyze and discuss just what is plaguing it during this crisis and what's more importantly, the way forward, the way out of this crisis. As always, we have a stellar lineup of guests for you. And so on the show today with me, I have Deepak Jain. He is the president of the Automobile Component Manufacturers Association, or ACMA. He's also chairman and MD at Lumax Industries. Also with us, Arvind Goyal, the managing director and CEO at Tata Autocomp. And last but not least, Vivek Vikram Singh is managing director and group CEO at Sona Comstar. Gentlemen, good evening, and thank you for being with us on Car and Bike Dialogues this evening. I'm going to, of course, jump straight into it, and without dwelling too much on the obvious components, no pun intended, of this crisis, Deepak, to you first. Set it up for us. Give us a sense of how bad things have been, because I think a lot of times the picture on the car and bike side tends to obliterate what's really happening on the component side.
Thank you, Siddharth, for having us. I think first and foremost, I would like to state that the component industry, the auto industry, was actually going through a downturn for last about almost 16 to 18 months. It was not in the best of health. You actually were looking at a demonetization. After that, there was basically a lot of regulations which came in, which impacted the pricing. We were in midst of also migration from BS4 to BS6. So there were multiple things which were playing out. And in the 18-19, we actually, degrew. And we were actually looking at almost 1920. If you see the output, it was actually minus 18% for the auto industry. And of course, in January, when actually COVID started in Wuhan, it actually disrupted the global supply chain. And actually, auto sector was the first to hit, even in India, before actually the shutdown started. So it was actually a severe financial stress which the auto industry was already reeling under. And of course, with the shutdown and Wuhan coming, with the COVID coming into India, it actually complicated things with almost a 6-week shutdown. We started the new financial year for 2021 with also zero revenue. So it's been a tough time, and you know very well that the auto component industry is an industry which is very intricate, interdependent, and complex. Right. So even if one supplier in the whole value chain actually is not able to supply components, the whole value chain starts. And I think the learning from the shutdown has been that to lock down, it's very easy to actually completely stop the supply chain. But to unlock, it's taking immense effort on behalf of the industry to have sustainable production runs currently.
That's right, and I think that's the part we'd like to understand. Arvind Goyal, to you next. Give us a sense of what some of those key challenges are in terms of being able to open up to get production going again, and not just the production, but also the supply part.
Quite a challenge because of the supply chain and unavailability of skilled workers, which is affecting the production. Moreover, this is not a short-term issue. There are signs that migrant workers who have gone back, many of them are not likely to come back. And if you look at the UP government survey, it says that 75% of 2.4 million migrant workers who returned after the lockdown expressed desire to work in the state. So this is going to become a new norm, and also with the social distancing which we have to put in the place, the number of workers we can put in the plant has got reduced, and which is also in the end impacts your production. And also this is going to be quite a challenge on certain parts which we are importing from other parts of the world, and especially from China, which creates an issue.
All right. Of course, we will talk about the China angle, but I want to hold off on that because I don't want that to sort of overtake the rest of the discussion. A lot more important points to get through. Vivek, to you next. This point about the migrant workers. To you individually as Sona Comstar, how much of an impact has there been? And then about trying to sort of figure out how to get that going again, either by hiring fresh number of people, then there's a matter of training, or bringing them back. Is that even possible?
Yeah, thanks, Sid. So I'll be the optimistic guy on the panel here. We are not actually seeing that bad a time. I mean, the bounce back has been fairly good for us. In July, touchwood, we should be back, if not better than pre-COVID levels for us.
Right.
Yes, there is some supply chain issues which we've been able to overcome. Labor has been an issue in our Gurgaon plant. It's not so much in Chennai,
Mm-hmm.
but it is resolving itself slowly. We have had to do a lot of things, of course. I mean, the first and most important is ensuring employee safety. I mean, if you can go beyond mere compliance and SOPs and make your people feel as safe as they would in their own homes, I mean, there is no reason they would stay away.
Right.
I think here as leaders, we have to set a lot of personal examples. If we are afraid to go to our shop floors, we have no right to call anyone else first. And, you know, there are other things you can do, reach out as community, reach out to your people. It gets better. Yes, initially there were challenges, but it's getting better very fast.
All right, fair enough. Mr. Goyal, back to you on this matter. I mean, the assurances that need to be sort of provided to these people to say, look, come back to work and, we're going to ensure that things are better for you. We're going to make sure that your safety is, of paramount importance. But what about the job security aspect? I mean, the reason why this crisis has hit them so much harder is the fact that most of them are contract labor. Most of them don't have that sort of safety net when it comes to their jobs. Is that something that you think, not just as an individual company, but as an industry, you're willing to sort of address?
Certainly, we need to address that issue, and most of the auto component industry certainly paid all contract workers and temporary workers their salary during the lockdown.
Yeah.
Certainly, we in Tata companies paid everyone, and but there is also a fear in their mind, and there are opportunities which are also coming in UP, Bihar, Orissa, from where these workers come in. And also when they come back, we are certainly assuring them a job. Because they are a trained labor, training takes a hell of an amount of time to train a new worker.
Yeah.
So we are ready to do that. But industry as a whole has not made arrangements for stay of these people. They have always been staying on their own, and where they are staying, the landlords are not allowing them to come back, because they are afraid that there can be a coronavirus there and it can get spread. So finding a place to stay, which has become difficult. Certainly in Maharashtra, the MIDC is now planning to make arrangements in future, but it's going to take time, where they will
All
make housings in the MIDC area.
All right. Well, I mean, there's going to be multiple challenges, of course, that will continue to sort of plague this particular issue. One quick point on this, Deepak, back to you on that. Do you think that it's possible to look at a scenario where, we keep hearing rumors about how some of these home states of these people might look at sort of looking at giving them employment options right there, which is offering incentives to maybe set up fresh, production or manufacturing there. That's a little too simplistic, isn't it? It's not going to be that easy to do that.
Sorry, Siddhartha, I had some echo. Could you just repeat that again, once again, please?
Some of the states from where these migrant labor come, the idea of being able to offer them jobs in their home state means setting up new production lines or manufacturing within that state. Is that something that's even practical to think about?
See, I think just on the workforce, the auto industry, although do apply a lot of contractual labor, they're not this is still a skilled job. I think the component industry actually take a lot of effort and time to actually train them, skill them, and then put them on the shop floor. I don't think it will be that easy when they've actually gone back to the rural area, wherever they are at their hometowns, to actually get that kind of a job. And I think there will definitely be, as we've talked about, the whole fear of returning back. And of course, I think the industry is not looking at further investments currently. I think no one is across sectors. I think the intent here would be basically to just see whether we are able to get our workforce currently to ensure that we are having safe practices and sustainable runs.
All right. And when it comes to investments, one key factor that seems to be popping up again and maybe this is more about a social media sort of a phenomenon and not really an on-ground or an industry consideration. But Vivek, the point is about China. You know, people talk about the opportunity, this huge opportunity to say that, look, let's not look at importing from China in a big way. Let's have our own homegrown companies, or indeed those who have invested here in India start to become the sole suppliers to the industry. Again, easier said than done, but is it a true opportunity?
I mean, it is an opportunity. The global supply chain is shifting for sure. India is already gaining, but how much is the question? Can we actually gain more than Vietnam or Mexico, for example? And that's where I think we are facing some challenges because of where we are. I mean, India, since the early 90s actually, has rarely missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. Yeah. And we keep missing out for two reasons, right? One is to do with our industry, which is very fragmented and a lot of small players, so not enough R&D and not enough capital. And second is, despite some good policy changes, India is still a relatively tough place to do business.
It's the lack of that policy change that we've, I know, lamented on for quite some time. And in fact, Deepak, the last time you and I met, we were speaking about, not in this context, but in the larger context, how perhaps there needs to be a more formative policy. Given this opportunity and also given the political sort of overtones of, you know, the China aspect of this, do you think it's time now for the industry to perhaps go to the government and say, look, here's an opportunity, let's not miss out on it. If all of this business is going to leave China and go elsewhere, we have to grab the lion's share of it.
So, Siddha, I'm going to put the China thing, especially from the component sector, in a very different perspective. Mm-hmm. I think let's understand why does the world source from China. It is not just because of any love for China. It is primarily because they offer competitive and quality solutions to the world. Most important is the competitive pricing. And why do they have it? Let's kind of correlate India and China. The auto component industry in India is about 57 billion odd US dollars. China is about 550 billion US dollars. It's 10 times the size of India, and hence there is economies of scale merit. We all know that in India, there are certain disadvantages. We have a very high cost of capital. There is also the land cost is very high. We also have one of the highest energy and the logistics costs. So because of that, there is certain demerits on the competitiveness when we are manufacturing into India. And what we actually need is a very stable policy. And I think the PM's call on Atmanirbhar is exactly that we as an industry, as well as the government, need to have a very stable plan to ensure how we are actually enhancing the competitiveness of India in manufacturing to actually attain global standards. I think that is the key going forward.
Fair enough, and that competitiveness, or how to get to it, is what I would like to talk about in greater detail. We'll take a very short break. We'll come back and get straight into that. Please keep watching. Welcome back, and as always, not a whole lot of time left. So, gentlemen, very quickly to each of you then, three things you'd like to see happen very quickly from a policy perspective, or as many things. Vivek, I'll come to you.
Yes, Sid, I mean, I would like to see, and I think this has been a long-standing ACMA demand, GST reduction to 18%. Apart from that, frankly, nothing else that I expect from policymakers except to let us run our businesses without any more policy intervention, lockdowns, any more curbs on employment restrictions, 75% from local area, etc. So just if we are left alone to do what we do best, which is to make world-class components for the global industry, we will do well.
All right. I don't think anybody could have put it better than that. Just leave us alone, let us do our thing. I agree. I think that's the right sentiment. Mr. Goyal, to you, to look at increased competitiveness, something that you'd like to see happen?
Yes, we need to have, modify a lot of our laws, especially on the labor front and also on the land acquisition. We have two plants in China, and China being a communist country, we always think the labor is very difficult. I think that the easiest labor to handle, and you can, fire any worker. There is a norm on how much money one needs to pay them, and they are far more productive than Indian labor. So the productivity is extremely high. Once I took a director from Tata Sons to my plant in China, the labor was not even looking up. They were all working down, working as if nobody has come into the plant. And second thing is, we also need to have a lot of shift in our education pattern in ITIs and polytechnics and all, because when the get a worker or even a supervisor from these institutions, they are not job ready. A lot of training on the job needs to be done, and in most of the other countries you'll find that people passing out from such.
So labor, of course, is something that will have to be addressed, and we can argue about whether or not the Chinese model is correct or not. I'm sure politically, again, a lot of people will have things to say. Deepak, last word to you then. The competitiveness angle, the key thing that you would like to see happen, which can maybe be a quick fix, an easy or a quick fix.
I think most important the industry need is stability. It doesn't need any knee-jerk reactions, be it on regulations, be it on any other policy matters. I think the industry and government must have the trust and work in partnership to create a long-term stable plan which doesn't get changed in between. And I think the industry is very committed to actually have a very competitive way. We have very clearly a two-wheeler industry. We supply components to that, which is globally competitive, both in terms of quality as well as cost. So I think we have homegrown examples, and I think we just need to completely promote them in terms of stability.
But small things like, GST, Vivek has mentioned, things like power tariffs, etc. Do you think that there could be something that at least helps you in the short term?
Absolutely. I think, I don't want to repeat that, but I think it's been a long-standing demand, and especially now, because the demand creation is absolutely a must. GST reduction on vehicles, even on components, energy costs. We have had three big issues because of this whole lockdown. It's been basically for cash, which is money. It has been for material, raw material availability, and it's also been manpower. If we are having these three fixes in a midterm and quick fixes on demand creation, I think we should be back on track.
Well, hopefully the policymakers are listening, and hopefully they'll continue to listen to you as well when you take this to them as ACMA, as the industry. We do, of course, wish all of you the very best to continue to navigate this crisis. Your views are always important to us, so I appreciate your time today, and thank you for joining us on the Car and Bike Dialogue. As always, this is a forum that we would like to have a much larger conversation on, but we're out of time. Next week, remember, we'll continue to take this auto industry discussion forward, so please do join us for that. And thank you to all the guests, and thank you to all of you who are watching. Please stay safe, wear your masks, and always wear your seatbelt. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.